So here's the aftermath of Death Hopscotch. Oh, even a spider limb there. Yeah, so gluing glaze. It's a little sort of a softer glue, so should you wish to peel them out, it should leave the coach interior relatively unmarked. There's a few that are still a little bit mobile. They might want another visit with a little cocktail stick of glue strategically placed in them just before I put the lids back on, because invariably you know what will happen, one will fall off and be rattling around inside. I did find out that the drive unit hasn't got the bloody screw. That's the one out of this end. The lighting, if you recall, it only worked on function 2, which triggered the interior light. Now, a little bit of investigation, it proved a bit odd because the Hornby, I think, but it looks like a Bachmann possibly. Either way, it's one of their decoders. It has a fly wire coming off the chip in addition to the 8 wires that come off the 8-pin plug. Now, according to Hornby's spec, the fly wire function decoder wire accessory, whatever you want to call it, auxiliary, is operated on function 4. Now that was wired to the overhead lights, so it couldn't have been function 4. So I don't know whether it's a typo on their information or it is a different chip that looks remarkably similar. But they'd got an RS type small RST plug, one of these, and this is stuck in the roof, which is clearly an aftermarket thing. Just a bit of the cheap tape that someone's put in. I mean, it was quite straight. The only thing obviously was their ultra bright lights that don't really fit with a DMU that was used in the 80s and 90s that would have had fluorescent tube lighting. And in addition to that, if we look at the interior, I've removed both of them to alleviate the problem, but it did take this foil with it. Now the foil hides a little 3mm amber sort of LED mounted that projects a light in this glazing, and there's one this end as well. I might have to get some aluminium tape or something to do that, and then there's another one feeds through there into the location board, which is skipped in on this one, which didn't work. The other end works, but this one didn't, which again is operated via the functions. Now if you look, there's 2 contact plates there, which I thought may feed the directional head code, and another pair of contacts here that marry up with these 2 here and them 2. So I thought, well, obviously one controls the contacts to the internal lighting because there's a circuit board underneath here, and the other one will come off the direction lights and run the headboard. But no, the positive off of this end, I think, or the negative off this end and the positive off this end, I tested. I put power through on this and it lit the headboard. So obviously diagonal wiring illuminates the headboard. I'm thinking it's probably working in conjunction with those. So why it didn't work, I don't know, unless these weren't making contact, because one of them they were pushed down. So hopefully they will resolve that issue and we'll get the light back working in here, because it is working. Because this cab interior piece is all glued down, so you'd have to break it to get access to the LED, so I wouldn't have bothered. The piece here comes off and allows you to get underneath the cabling to the chip, which I've had out and to try and identify what it was, and then I didn't chop the wires because they've took the circuit board up, and the other bit, sort of other half of this is still soldered in situ. I've got a pack of these so I don't need them. This is the one out the driving unit, which is obviously shorter because of the motor. I did get the plug with that one because it's got a Zen Black in this one. So they'd obviously got a neutral off of there and then a live they'd cut for this function, which again obviously they worked in tandem, so it's function 4. This one I could have remapped, although you've got to sit down for half a morning to read the entire manual. There's pages and pages and pages. And I thought, sod it, I'll just put a couple of Lay's DCC ones in there and change the wiring to work how I need it to. But then I looked in there and realised there was, you know, a more subtle light in there, which would, I mean, if it's really crap, I would look to actually just upgrade the LEDs that are already there and use the function commands and system that wiring that's already there. Just improve the LEDs. These are just too bright, too modern looking, which is a sort of trap a lot of people fall into with interior building lighting, coach lighting, street lighting. They'll buy the bright white lights which really don't go in with the period you're modelling. I know at the end of the day you can say, well, real one, but you know, if you're looking to try and model a specific period, I mean, if you had gas lamps in 1930s, you wouldn't want one of these blaring away, but I have seen them on people's layouts. Now, I did speak to Mark at Ambledown Road about that, because I've got some of the street lights which are in warm white, but obviously I don't know about the US, but over here a normal sort of urban street light was on a 6-metre column, and they had a 35 watt sodium lamp which basically glow orange because of the gas and sodium in them. So having bright white lights is not really true to most street lighting in the UK up to about 2000. There were some which had mercury vapour lamps in them, which were a more rounded bulb. I have got some here, they're massive, they're about getting on for the size of an American football or a rugby ball. They're real big hoofers that go in factories and that for high bay lighting. They are quite a bright white light. But as a general rule of thumb, yeah, so I've got orange Tamiya Clear to paint the bulbs over with a few times. To get them down to that sort of orange dingy glow that they have in the skyline that you still see over some towns now. But getting back to these, yeah, I've had the old Chinese people glued in, most of which I haven't had to amputate the feet off, so I'm sure Anthony Dodge and the PSA will be much relieved. It was just the lanky bastards I had to chop down, you know, they always need cutting down to size, don't they? But we're doing that one again. We're just waiting for the glue to set up, and I'll re-chip this and test them before I put the lids on, and then invariably something ain't going to bloody work. So I might have to put it to bed just so I can move on to the next thing and put these out of the way. But that's it on the update for the DMUs. That wasn't going to be an update because I was just going to leave them alone. But it didn't work the way the guy had wired up with the extra tape and taking wires off the socket. I've left that still inside, so it didn't work a little while ago, but it was because the back end wasn't quite clipped in and making contact with the circuit board in the roof. So now, as you can see, we have light in the board, and if I change the direction button, you may or may not. There we go. I don't know whether it's picking it, I can't see it on the camera. And the interior lighting is working, but obviously because it's now back down to the dingy 1980s style, you can't really see much. I don't know, there's no night setting on this camera, I don't think. I was a bit disappointed with all the settings on the camera. None of them seem to make a lot of difference through the screen, so you have to take my word for it. There is a little bit of subtle lighting. It is a little bit too subtle for my liking, but you know, it is what it is. Let's just see if we can turn it on and off. See if yeah, that's off. That's on. You can't really tell. I can't see any difference through the screen anyway, but at least we got the destination board working now on the trailing car. So let's hook her up and give her a test. So there we go, away in the driving configuration. So we've sort of gone from one extreme to the other, where the interior lighting is not enough to was too much. So I may in the future get a 3mm micro LED and swap them out, but you know, it's messing about, taking all the boards out and everything. I did manage to dislodge a step off the bogie, and I did manage, because my mat down here, not that you can see it because it's dark and black, and so's the step. So there was a little bit of swearing going on. So let's have a look at, yes, we see we've got people in the carriage. Let's go back the other way. And so that needs reattaching. But as you can see, even though they're the awful Chinese ones, does it really show, even at low speed, through a camera, that they're pretty awful. I mean, yeah, I could have spent a little bit of time maybe changing some of the colours of the clothing, but like I say, what I'm saying is the two yellow guys in the back row have obviously just finished work and they've still got their eye-vis on, that's all I'm saying. But yeah, going back to the step, I managed to find it, and I was just figuring out how it went on, and I see a lump inside, and I thought, well, it's just been on the floor, what's it picked up? And it wasn't. It was being held on with a bit of black tack. So I will pop it in a bag in the box for now, just in case I have to mess about with this again and knock it off. But yeah, I've just glued them in with glue and glaze, because it's a sort of softish glue, so should you want to rip them out, it shouldn't leave too much grief to sort, you know. I mean, if I was to sell it, I'd leave them in, I wouldn't mess about for the cost of those little Chinese people, for sort of £2 or £3 shipped. So, you know, we've got 2 or 3 bags to do all the coaches. Don't know whether it's worth doing the Airfix ones, because obviously they were tinted windows anyway, so I'll worry about that at another stage in the railway modelling world. But zoom in on the 1022 to Ripton, or wherever it is. Train spotter's delight. You can just about figure out, there's some figures in there. Unfortunately, the cab bulkhead is glued in such a way, it also acts as the securing mount for the chassis to the body. There's a screw moulded captive piece in there. You can't get it out to put a driver in the cab, and if you did, it would literally just be a torso, because there is no leg room at all. He would there's not a lot of room for anything in the front there. You know, it's a little bit lacking in scale detail when we come to the inside of locomotives. But it is done for now. I haven't had to change the chips. I've kept the original ones in that came with it, which was the Hornby and the Zen. Probably a waste of a Zen chip in something like this, to be honest with you, because obviously all it does is go forwards, backwards, turn lights on, turn lights off. But you know, a little bit of transmission noise, as you would say, from the electric motor. But I'm sure when it's trundling along with everything else going, not going to make a lot of difference. So the CV settings I haven't read or changed yet. There is a bit of delay with the inertia on it, but I'm not too. You know, I shut the power off. There's about a 3-second delay, so all part of the fun, isn't it? Well, that's that one. The Dapol I've packed away now, so I won't be populating that one just yet. So that's it for now.